The Golf R versus Golf GTI debate has been around, well, since the Golf R's creation, funnily enough. Most people just say the R is better because more power equals more fun. Then if it's not that, it's the, oh, well, it has all-wheel drive, and in the UK it's always wet, so all-wheel drive is better. But if you like driving, for, actual fun, is the R really better? Or is the more traditional GTI the one you want? Well, we've got both cars here, so let's find out, shall we? My name's Tom, and you're watching Paragon Cars. Let's go. Now for this review, we're just talking performance and fun. If you'd like to see the interiors and other features, click in the top right hand corner to see individual reviews of these cars. Anyway, the engines. They're very similar, of course. The main difference is the turbo. GTI runs a smaller turbo when compared to the R, meaning the Golf R has more power and, of course, a bit more torque. But here's where things get interesting. Because the GTI's turbo is smaller, it can spool up faster. Will that make it more responsive? Well, it should do. The other thing I found interesting is that the torque per tonne is actually higher on the GTI. Due to less heft, the GTI has 271 Nm per tonne compared to the Golf R's 265. Will you notice that though? Nah, of course not. What you will notice is the difference in the top end. The R puts out 310 horsepower and the GTI makes do with 230. Let's see how much of a difference that makes on the 30 to 70 sprint. Well, of course the Golf R is faster, but the GTI wasn't actually that far behind. The Golf R managed 4.1 to the GTI's 4.79. For the power, the GTI certainly does well, I think. Right. I think it's time to go for a drive and really feel the difference. Right, Golf R up first. I have tried to get the dash-mounted GoPro working, but for some reason this is like the most anti-stick material ever made. No matter what I use to stick it down with, it won't stick. Anyway, let's do some driving, shall we? Now, if you want to see individual reviews of these cars, I'll put links in the top right hand corner for them. Today we're just going to be focusing on driving, as I've probably said in the intro already, purely because on the motorway they're basically the same car, and I just thought it's going to be a lot more interesting just to see how they drive, if there's any major differences. Of course, one's four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, and one's front-wheel drive. But the main thing I'm interested in is to see which one is more fun. Okay, since we're just doing fun driving today, we're straight in race mode, in manual, and we got the traction as off as it'll go. See what it's like. Got good pickup. Same old Golf really. Not a huge amount of rotation. But it's not boring. As I said in my full review, it's kind of just satisfying to drive. And you do get nice pops and bangs from the exhaust. Now in my Cupra versus Golf R video, I noticed that the Golf R was just a bit inert when it came to faster corners. Very capable, but not, you couldn't get it sideways that easily. This is a different Golf R though, so we're going to see if it's any different. Come on. Be fun. See what I mean? It pushes wide. This is where I think the GTI could one-up the Golf R. Because if it's more fun, then you're kind of getting a cheaper, more fun car. This is more technically capable, but lacking a bit in the fun department. More impressive, especially in a straight line, but you know, you want to impress yourself, not others. Coming off here, in a Golf R you just plant your foot. In a front wheel drive car, you kind of have to feed the throttle in and you have to focus more on your line. Apologies if you can hear anything moving around at the back, it's just my camera equipment. It's quite hard to tie stuff down in this. Remember, I've got the ESC fully off, or as off as it'll go, and there's still just no movement. Really pushing it, and even then it's like you're just barely getting any rotation. I think if you lived in a snowy climate, this would be the car to go for, but for the UK, I don't know. I'm going to give it one more go. But the thing is, you don't really want to have to push it that hard to get a smile on your face. Because then you're kind of being dangerous as well. Anyway, how does the car feel just as a car? Well, steering is fine. It doesn't have a huge amount of feel to it. But you know what the car's doing. It's not totally devoid of feel. Engine and gearbox are the things that really do it for me. This has got to be one of the best 2-litre engines ever made. It just has torque everywhere, so no matter what revs you're at, you've always got loads of power, which is nice. And the thing is, it doesn't die off at the top like a lot of other hot hatches. Right, one more go. Yeah, see? Tiny bit of rotation, but just not enough. Now, I know the Cupra would go fully sideways around there if I wanted it to. It's going to be interesting to see if the GTI can do the same. I do think, though, down a B road like this, it's actually quite good fun. Because it's quite darty. And no, you're not going sideways, but down a B road like this, you don't really want to be going sideways. You just want to feel what the car's doing. And God, it's so capable. We're just riding on the standard dampers, don't have DCC, but they're perfectly good enough, really. DCC is really good if you're doing like long motorway journeys or proper track use. Overall, I mean, it's not a boring car. You just want it to do a little bit more. I'd really like to have a go in a new one because you've got the trick differential in that, so you can actually power slide it. This, I'm trying to like come off the throttle mid-corner and tap the brake so I can get the rear end to rotate round, and even then it doesn't really want to do anything. You know, you can Scandi flick this into a corner and you have to really Scandi flick it into a corner to get it sideways. But the thing is, as a daily driver, it's really good. You know, it's not boring. But oh god, the stuff it does on a daily drive, you know, just having adaptive cruise control, quiet cabin, quite an efficient engine for the power it's got, and just a smooth gearbox. I mean, it makes daily driving so nice. And that's where a lot of its value lies, I think. It just relaxes you every day. It makes the mundane enjoyable. But the only downside with that is that when you do get to a B road, it just doesn't quite scratch that itch, I don't think. Or it certainly doesn't for me. Right then, in the GTI, in full attack again. Let's see if this is any different. Well, the first thing you notice is slight lack of power. Hard to tell though, doesn't really feel any slower. Next thing you notice is that the gears are slightly longer, especially third. And that's because we're running the 6-speed DSG rather than the 7-speed in the Golf R. And the next thing you notice is there's no pops and bangs, unfortunately. But you do get a nice DSG feel. Golf R. But already, just a little bit of wheel spin, a little bit of movement. It just adds that drama that I'm looking for. One thing that has surprised me though is when I turn the ESC off, or sorry, the traction control. So in a VAG car you press it once to turn the traction control off, but if you want to turn the ESC off, you usually just hold it down for 5 seconds. And in a Golf R, it lets you turn it off, or pretty much turn it all the way off. In this, you'd have noticed it said ESC Sport. Now that is not the same as off, or certainly not the same as a Golf R or a Cupra. So I'm hoping it doesn't try to intervene too much when we get on the faster stuff. Anyway, let's see how it handles down this B road. Still get nice DSG farts. It's interesting, the sound is actually a bit higher pitched than the Golf R. The Golf R is quite a deep, raughty noise. It's a bit more peppy, this. Kind of suits it, I think. It's a bit more Cupra. That's what I'm looking for. See, I may not be sliding, but the feeling you get when you go into a corner is that the rear is just following you a bit more. That's what you're missing with the Golf R. The rear kind of tries to push you but can't because it's just not got enough power. Whereas because there's just less weight over the rear, it follows you round the corner. It feels more authentic. Alright, round some faster stuff then. Moment of truth. Will it let me go sideways at all? Not quite, but a little bit more than the Golf R did. It tucks its nose better than the Golf R as well. You can feel it sort of clawing away at the road a bit more. Would be nice to have some pops and bangs though. I think they reserve those for the GTI TCR, which is kind of like a Cupra equivalent. It's just a bit more going on in this, to be honest. It doesn't really feel that much slower. You know, there's just over a second in it, but, or just under a second rather. Be slightly more aggressive this time. There we go. See, there's just a tiny bit more rotation. You just feel like you can wring it by its neck a little bit more. It's very hard to convey through camera a bit. You know, if the camera was pointing at me, you'd just see a little bit more of a smile. Not ear to ear, but it's enough. It's a hard choice, this. The ESC is definitely holding me back though. It just needs to let go, trust me a bit. Yeah, see, going around there, I've done that in a Cooper before, and the back end kicks out, whereas this, you can feel it's just grabbing at the rear wheels a little bit. Once more for good measure. We've actually got a McLaren 720S behind us. Down our favourite B road, one more time for good measure. Yeah, see, down here it still feels just as quick as the Golf R, really. Certainly not wanting for any more power, that's for sure. Hard on the brakes, foot down. Just a bit more going on, really, isn't there? And you're saving money. I think it's conclusion time. So yeah, in a numbers game, the Golf R wins, but driving them back to back, I just prefer the GTI. I had more fun in it, and that makes me feel weird. Part of my brain just says the Golf R is better because it just has to be. But I just feel less serious driving the GTI. I'm focusing on having fun rather than doing the fastest 0 to 60. Which would I choose though? Well, I'd have to swallow the fact that the Golf R is faster and technically a better car. And boy, that is a hard pill to get down. But you know what? I think it'd be worth it. As in the long run, of course, I'd save some money that could go towards modding this thing. Plus, I think I'd just get more out of the GTI in the long run. What would you choose? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, give it a like, and why not subscribe? As not only can you see more content like this, you can see everything we have for sale, which actually includes both the Golf R and the GTI in this video. My name's Tom, and you've been watching Paragon Cars. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.